Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. All right, welcome into another Dooley Noted Podcast presented as always by Titan MRI. We appreciate Titan, and of course, coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. We have trophies behind us today because Coach Spurrier was in here doing a thing for the SEC Network. So they asked me if they said, "Do you want to move the trophies?" And I go, "No, they're great." In fact, when we have John Clay on in a minute, and John Clay is a Lexington Herald leader, great columnist there, I'll just tell you right away, because you won't see these in there because we taped it on Wednesday. And we had to because, again, as we speak, I think Kentucky is literally, their plane is in taxi mode to come down here. But a lot of people couldn't do the show at this time, so they did it on, I got John on Wednesday. It's a really good interview, but I'm also bringing that up because Jordan Wright at the time was not eligible, and now he is. So don't tell me, hey, that guy said he. No, I know. I understand that. And of course, Coach Spurrier on Monday. We might have the commissioner on Friday. It's still being negotiated. Well, I mean, we're talking about it. And that'll be great. Greg Sankey, love talking to him. And, of course, a lot going on there. Got to tell you a real quick story. I thought about saving it for story time, which is, of course, brought to you by Eastlake Pediatrics. But I've got another good story on that. But this is a pretty good one. Well, that's not that good, but it's not about sports. So we had a bunch of limbs fall in our yard and over the last few days, and I had to drag them out. They were huge, too. They weren't like limbs. They were trees. So I dragged them out to the curb on Friday. Another one actually fell last night, but the point is the Waste Management didn't pick them up because they don't do that. If they're too big, and they were too big, I kind of had a feeling they wouldn't, but I hope they would. So today, that was my job, to go out there and saw them. All I have is a little handsaw. And so this is a really sad story. You know what I used as a bench so that I could put them on there and saw them? My walker from when I had my 2 knee replacements and my hip surgery. Chris Harry also used it for his knee replacement. But that walker was actually the best job it's ever done. It was brutal out there, though. It was very humid. And again, Kentucky's coming down here. They deal with humidity all the time, but Florida humidity is different. I'm not saying it could make a difference in the game, and I don't think it made a difference last week. I mean, Florida looked more tired than Utah, but it could be a factor as well. All right, let us right now get to our hand law starting lineup. We love doing it. The starting lineup is presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. And again, after that, we will have John Clay. And we did a taped interview. Just want to make sure everybody understands that. But I did wear the same shirt. You have to give me some credit for that. All right, number 1 on Hand Law, starting lineup. Yeah, Jordan Wright is eligible now. His was different than Chris Rodriguez. And again, as you guys watch this, this is the thing about doing a show. When you're doing it live, it's one thing. Even while you're doing it, stories can break, and then stories can break an hour later, and people are listening to it, and they go, wow, now that. But as we speak, Chris Rodriguez is not eligible. His stems from a drunk driving thing. This was a case of eligibility issues, a super senior. Jordan Wright's a really good player. Is he good enough to be, a game changer? Maybe. They've got a couple of really good outside linebackers. J.J. Weaver actually promised that they had a game plan for Anthony Richardson. I'm like, well, you think Utah went, hey, this guy probably won't run the ball at all. Come on, man. Everybody has a game plan till you get hit in the mouth, as Mike Tyson used to say. They have named the captains for this game, and Amari Burney, not surprisingly, is one of them. A leader on that team, and, of course, made the big play in that game the other day. Florida did lose their snapper for this game, Ortiz, yeah. He is out. He had what they call an upper body injury. You never want to hurt your upper body. But other than that, Florida came out of that game pretty healthy. So Looking forward to the game. We'll talk more about it in a minute, especially with John Clay. Number 2 on Hanlaw's starting lineup. My bad. I somehow miss this. And again, sometimes you sit there and you're doing a million stats and you screw something up. And I was very proud of all the great stats I had going into this game. One of them was that Florida and Kentucky had only met as ranked teams twice. They actually had met a third time, and I missed it. I just didn't see it in the media guide. 98, Florida was 8th, and Kentucky was 25th. So I was wrong on that. I want to make sure everybody knows it. Scott Carter didn't point it out, but I noticed his story had that, and I went back and looked up and went, oh, how did I miss that? So this is the third time these teams have met as a ranked team. Number 3 on the Hanlaw starting lineup. And we've been talking about this a lot on the radio. And I don't think most fans I think most fans get this part of it. But please don't think this is going to be an easy win. If you do, you're out of your mind. Look, I say this all the time. I have these mantras that I live by, and one day I know I wrote a story about them one day, but I need to actually kind of do a New Testament thing, carve them on a tablet of some kind. But every game is its own game. That's one of my favorite ones because every game is different. What you saw last week, you aren't going to see this week. You may see something better. You may see something worse. You have no idea. What you saw from Kentucky last week where their offensive line wasn't very good, you don't know whether it's going to be better this game. Don't forget, they're blocking against a Florida defensive line that wasn't very good. That's all you can say. Florida won the game. But it was despite the fact that that Utah was able to run all over them in the second half. 10 rushing plays, or 10 of the 11 plays on the drive that got stopped in the goal line, 10 of them were rushing plays. They came out and imposed their will, and Florida couldn't do anything about it. So now you got a team that's going to try to do it again. I know their running back room is a little thin, but and their offensive line didn't play well in the last game. They only averaged 1.9 yards a rush. Could be totally different in this game. So please do not think this will be easy. And that's the thing. I've been giving you all kinds of stats, and I've been doing it on the radio, and I did it in speeches. And I want to shout out to the Fighting Gator Touchdown Club where I spoke last night, and, of course, the Gainesville Quarterback Club where I spoke on Tuesday, which I always introduce the speaker, and it was Laura Rutledge this week. We'll get to their segment in a minute. But shout out to the FGTC. They always treat me really well. They have a lot of fun in that meeting. I mean, my opening thing was, I said, man, it was loud. And I was like, I wasn't even talking about the game. I was talking about you guys in the bar next door. But they were pretty loud. But they have a fun time. It's always so much fun to go talk to them. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who's had me. But the point is, I gave them a bunch of stats, and I've been given the penalty stat from last year and the lack of interceptions. None of any of this stuff matters. Nothing matters but what happens in this game. It matters what happens. Like, nobody saw 15 penalties coming in the game last year. Nobody saw them. They did this to Dan Mullen's first team, imposing their will, to the point where Robbie and I were sitting there going, I don't think this team's going to a bowl game. All they did was go they went to the, where'd they go? It was a Peach Bowl that year, right? Yeah, Peach Bowl. New Year's Six Bowl. So, I just think this is going to be a tough game. Really tough. We don't know what the weather's going to do. It forecasts is for maybe rain, but then this is Gainesville. Right now, we just saw a storm come through here that was so bad, I was like, oh, my God. I'm sure glad I brought my umbrella, and now it's gone. So, this is Gainesville. We call it Rainsville or Chainsville sometimes, but Rainsville, and we'll see what happens, whether it has any effect on the game. Who knows? And people always ask me, "What if it rains? What do you think the effect will be?" I don't know. It depends on who fumbles. Again, going back to 2002, nobody saw Tennessee fumbling whatever it was 7 times in the rain happening up there. Nobody saw that coming. You never know. This is why we love college football. We have no idea what's going to happen again in this game. We think we know more about what could happen. We think Anthony Richardson is really special, he's got to, it's not about one game, though. It's not about doing it one time. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. This game's more important than the Utah game because this is an SEC game. And while they're not going to bring a big crowd, Utah had a pretty nice crowd because, again, it was the first chance to go visit the Swamp. I think Kentucky sold 1,600 tickets. Utah asked for more after getting their 3,000 allotment, ended up selling 4,500 and then getting a bunch on the secondary market. So, but it's college football, man. You got to be ready. They don't like Florida. Most of these players feel like, hey, we can play with Florida. We should have won 3 of the last 4. And they could have if Felipe Franks doesn't break his ankle. They would have won that game. All right, that's number 3. Number 4 on the hand-loss starting lineup. The NFL's back. It was I watched some of the game last night, not all of it. It wasn't really good. And again, this goes back to, and I will say this: the Rams didn't look real good. They certainly couldn't block the Bills. The Bills looked great on defense. Never take too much from the first game. I remember there was a year where I think the Patriots sent Lawyer Malloy to the Bills, and the Bills beat them like 34-0 in the first game, and you're like, wow, what a mistake that was. And I think they won the Super Bowl that year. So never take too much from the first game in the NFL, especially with 17 games. But, boy, the Bills really look good. Josh Allen looked good. They have a really good team. There are a lot of holes on the Rams team, and one of them is that Van Jefferson wasn't playing. That was part of the problem. And, you've already lost OBJ and Woods, and Allen Robinson was there. But they didn't block very well, and they didn't they do a lot of things very well. So that was number 4. And then number 5, I did want to talk about the death of the Queen because it is a sports story in a weird way, and I can make it even Florida related because I have a chance to do that. They stopped Premier League play. They stopped the golf tournament yesterday in the middle of the tournament. They stopped it, and they didn't play today. They are going to play tomorrow, and I get it. It's a big deal. I get it. It doesn't mean necessarily I don't think it's kind of silly what England does, but it's the same old thing for everybody. Whatever people in another country do doesn't mean it's wrong. It means they're different. We did fight a war against the tyranny of the crown, but I thought Queen Elizabeth was pretty good with most of the things she did, including playing the Star Spangled Banner after 9/11, the only time it's ever been played at Buckingham Palace. 96 years old, great thing. But it made me think about these stoppages about a game that was played the day after John Kennedy died, which he didn't die, he was killed. It's kind of a difference. But Florida was playing at Miami the next day. And ironically, he had just been in Miami like 3 days before for something. I can't remember what it was, some kind of conference. But there was a lot of people that wanted the games not to be played. They were kind of trying to make a decision, and they finally decided not. And the way I heard the story, and again, I don't know how true it is, but the way I heard the story is they're going up in the elevator, and they're going to cancel the game. And teams are on the field getting ready to play it. They're going to cancel the game, and I think it was Edwin Pope, who's a good friend of mine, and I think it was him, blocked their way to get into the booth to cancel the game. I don't have the story as well as that's why it won't be a story time. I don't know the story as well as a lot of people do, but they went ahead and played the game, and in fact, Florida won that game. But it does kind of feel like that, like yeah. Now we're not stopping anything over here, obviously, but over there, I understand it. It's what they are, It is what they are. All right, we have to take a break. That is our hand-loss starting lineup. And we'll come back again. We taped this on Wednesday with John Clay. It's a really good interview. He can really break down the team. Don't forget, he didn't know at the time, and nobody knew, that Jordan Wright would be miraculously cleared to play in this game. But we'll come back with more here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. to go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Spite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Pat Dooley's Story Time is brought to you by East Lake Pediatrics. Nobody knows how to provide pediatric health care for little gators better than Dr. Mike and the other board-certified pediatricians and the pediatric nurse practitioners of East Lake Pediatrics. They have been providing personalized health care to the children of Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties since 2004. And with the recent addition of Dr. Chris, who is also board certified in sports medicine, they are now offering care for youth sports injuries as well. To learn more about East Lake Pediatrics, call 727-372-6760. And to get to know them better, listen to Dr. Mike and Dr. Carey on their Peds and Pop podcast on multiple platforms. Gator football is back, and the best way to get exclusive insight is a membership in the Gainesville Quarterback Club. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you the access to speakers like coaches, Gator greats, and more. Yeah, I even talk over there. It's pretty cool. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-person meetings or for non-locals via Zoom with an out-of-town membership. Right now, out-of-town memberships are only $150, and all new out-of-town signups get entered to win 2 Champions Club tickets to homecoming. That's pretty cool. Against Missouri, speaker presentations, home game tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or call me, Pat Dooley, 352-317-3444, and I'll get you in touch with the right people. Gainesville Quarterback Club. Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted Podcast, presented as always by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. That's a lot of things to say. It's great to bring on a longtime friend of mine, John Clay, great columnist up in Lexington, does an amazing job. He'll be down here for the game. I'll just give you the scoop here, a little behind the curtains. We're taping this on Wednesday because John has to travel down here on Friday, so we're taping it on Wednesday. So if anything happened between Wednesday and Friday, I can't be held responsible for it. John, how are you today?
I'm good, Pat. How are you?
I'm doing good. I don't know what the level of excitement or trepidation or up in Lexington is right now. What is the sense here? I mean, look, let's talk about won 2 of the last 4 and should have won 3 of the last 4.
Yeah, in the past there would be a lot of trepidation coming to the Swamp, where they had not won since 1979 when they finally won in 2018. But as you mentioned, they've won 2 of the last 4 against the Gators. Could have won 3 of the last 4. Got waxed down there in the COVID year in Gainesville. But no, there's enthusiasm and excitement for this game because people feel like this is going to be a good Kentucky team. A little mystery about Florida. Obviously, Florida big win last week against Utah. We'll see how that plays out. But no, I think Kentucky fans are excited about this game.
Even in the COVID year, that game was tight until they had that fake punt with no one. It was they fooled them on the punt return by Kadarius Toney. But until then, it was very, very close game. But yeah, they've been able to handle a lot of those things. Let's talk about the Cats. Obviously, opening win a little sloppy, but obviously the big concern is a rebuilt offensive line, and maybe you can explain to me how Kentucky could only rush for 50 yards because I thought they walked into a game with 50 yards already on the slate.
Right. Well, I think a couple of things happened. One, you mentioned three things. One, they do not have Chris Rodriguez. Their running back who ran for over 1,300 yards last year. First team All-SEC. He is out. We don't know how long he's out. We believe he's going to be out again for this game against Florida. He got a DUI back in May, pled guilty to that in July, but there's more going on with Chris besides that, and that's why he's going to miss this game. We don't know how many games he's going to miss. Mark Stoops basically told us it's out of his hands. He doesn't know how many games he's going to miss. The second thing was, as you mentioned, rebuild offensive line. They started 5 players who were all in either new positions or making their first start for Kentucky. That didn't go so well, especially at left tackle. So they've already made some changes. Kenneth Horsey, who's probably their best offensive lineman who plays guard, he only played a couple of series in the opener. They've moved him out now to left tackle. Jagger Burton will be starting at left guard. He's a redshirt freshman that they're very high on, had a really good camp. But it's like you said, it's still a line that's been shuffled, and they're, I don't know what the confidence level of the offensive line is right now. Third thing is new offensive coordinator Rich Scangarello. He went into the game. A, he did not want to show Florida much on tape, and B, he wanted to work on the passing game because he feels like, especially without Chris Rodriguez, they're going to need to throw the ball effectively. So that's why they threw it so much against Miami. And talking to Rich yesterday after practice, the way Miami played them defensively too, they pretty much stacked the box. Fed into that as well. But no, it was not the typical Mark Stoops rushing performance that we're used to seeing.
Yeah, by the way, John, you can use this in anything, and I think I'm right on this. I looked all these things up yesterday, but I think this is only the 3rd time both teams are ranked going into this game.
First time, I think, since 2007, I believe.
That was the game where Kentucky was a higher ranked team then.
I think they were 8th and Florida was 14th, and Kentucky was coming off. They had just beaten LSU in overtime, and LSU went on to win the national championship.
Triple overtime, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And then the next week, College Game Day came to Lexington.
That's right.
And because we're a football school, Pat, I don't know if you knew that. There's a little controversy here recently. And College Game Day came. It was a heck of a game, but Florida with Tim Tebow came out on top in that game. But yeah, it's and you got both teams ranked for this one, and Florida leapfrog Kentucky all the way up to number 12. Kentucky's number 20. But yeah, it's not too often do we get a Florida-Kentucky matchup where they're both ranked.
Yeah, I think the other one was 1950, and I did not cover that game. Yeah, just so you know. I was
you weren't there for that?
No,
I wasn't there either.
My parents had met, though, so they at least were thinking about having a child. But, yeah, it's really interesting. And again, this is a stat I use this week, too. This is only the, I think, 4th time Florida has opened up with 2 ranked teams to start the season. It rarely happens. So all that goes into this. And look, I think for Florida, we found out what Anthony Richardson can be. That's I think we know now that he can run an offense and everything, and that's got to give the defensive coaches at Kentucky a little bit of nightmares because of some of the plays he made. Most people don't make, especially the 2-point conversion.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mark Stoops talked about that in our press conference. There was one weekly press conference on Monday. Richardson, basically an athletic freak, but Mark said he's a good football player. He's a really good football player. Finally, we were talking to Will Levis yesterday, and Levis said that he met Anthony Richardson at the Manning Passing Academy, and what a good guy he is. Really enjoyed being around him and talking to him, because a lot of people are talking about, Will Levis versus Anthony Richardson. The NFL scouts are going to be watching this game. Levis really played that down, but yeah. Back to the original point, from a defensive standpoint, he creates a lot of problems for Kentucky, who over the years have had problems with running quarterbacks. Of course, a lot of teams have problems with running quarterbacks.
Yes, right.
But, Richardson, the way he played against Utah, that long run for the touchdown, and as you mentioned, the 2-point conversion, he's going to be a definite headache for Brad White.
All right, well, let's talk about the offense for Kentucky. And obviously, Will Levis had a nice first game, 303 yards, I think it was. Three short touchdown passes, but he threw the ball well. Certainly a skilled guy. But running back obviously is a big issue with Kavosiey Smoke, greatest name in sports. Seems like he's been there for 100 years, but he's the bell cow now, I guess, right?
Yeah, and they got a couple of guys hurt in the game against Miami. Ramon Jefferson, a transfer from Sam Houston State, who they felt like could be a good back in this offense. He got hurt. It hasn't been announced yet, but we hear he's got a torn ACL and be out for the year. And then Juton McClain, who's a good receiver out of the backfield, also got hurt. He's more of a day-to-day or game-to-game situation, so not sure they're going to have him. So they're basically down to Kavosiey Smoke and then a redshirt freshman, Lavelle Wright, who played well at the end of last year when he got some brief playing time and played pretty well the other night. He didn't get a whole lot of playing time, but when the other two got hurt, he got in there. It's basically down to those two. So Kavosiey's been around for a long time, as you mentioned. He's had some good games. He had a 100-yard game last year. We'll see how he does in this environment. We'll see also how Rich Scangarello, who's the new offensive coordinator, came from the 49ers, where he was the quarterback's coach, runs that Kyle Shanahan type offense, which Liam Cohen ran a version of last year before he went back to the Rams. We'll see how he incorporates that in with a very thin running back room right now.
Yeah, and like Gator fans are probably going, well, at least Robinson's gone. Well, there's a different Robinson there.
Right.
So, and he obviously huge first game transfer from Virginia Tech, who had, I think, 6 for 136, something like that. He looked really good.
Yeah, he looked really good. And it was my colleague at the Bear Mark Story said from now on, Kentucky has to have a Robinson on the roster. Every year we've got to have a Robinson. Yeah. So, he looked really good. He's probably a little faster than Wan'Dale Robinson, who last year set record for receptions and yards at Kentucky in his single seasons now with the New York Giants. Tavion's also a really good punt returner. He had a 23-yard punt return against Miami as well. They have a couple of young receivers they really like, and Dane Key, a local kid from Lexington whose dad played at UK, who caught a touchdown pass on Saturday, and Barryon Brown, a freshman from Nashville, who had a 100-yard kickoff return. He did the freshman thing, though, Pat, when he did dropped the ball just as he got to the goal line. So
why do
Kentucky
people
fans
do
were really
that?
nervous during their replay as they reviewed it. But turned out they gave him the touchdown. He's a speedy guy, freshman. So they like both those guys.
Yeah, I mean, who used to do that all the time was Quez Green. It used to drive me crazy.
Really?
And back then they really didn't even look at it that much. The replay wasn't really that big a deal back then. But he used to always drop it right as he got across the goal line, which I never understood. The ball's not heavy. Just you can carry it all the way into the end zone.
Right.
Let me ask you about tight end, because that's a position where they've been pretty good over the years. And what do they have there now?
Yeah, and Scangarello really likes to use the tight end in that 49ers offense with George Kittle and so forth. They don't really have a George Kittle, but they got a couple of guys that they like. Keaton Upshaw missed all last year. He's back. We think he'll be more prominent in the offense as the season goes along. Another guy that Dingle, a tight end that they got, is a redshirt freshman kid who caught a pass, and they feel like he can be a good player. The tight end is going to be much more involved in this offense with Rich Kangarella than we've seen before. And Rich made the comment early on, they felt like he's got 3 guys in the room who could play in the NFL. So we'll see how that plays out. There's a freshman kid, Josh Caddis, whose dad did play in the NFL, who really looked good in camp, but he's a true freshman, so we'll see how much he ends up playing.
Let's talk about the defense with Kentucky, and it always seems like they got one guy you better block, or it's whether it was Josh Allen or whoever. I mean, it was always somebody there. I mean, what do they have defensively this year that will give Florida fans some concern?
Well, the one guy that you mentioned that they would hope develops into that Josh Allen role is J.J. Weaver, who was really starting to come on 2 years ago. Then he tore his ACL. He played last year, but he was not quite 100%. They feel like this year he'll get back to that level. They got a lot of experience at linebacker, although Jordan Wright is like Chris Rodriguez. He missed the first game. He's the starter at the other outside linebacker spot. We think he's going to miss this game as well. He was not on the depth chart on Monday, but they have a lot of experience with DeAndre Square, who's been around forever. Jacquez Jones, transfer from Ole Miss last year, who's been around forever. The secondary was a big question mark, but Mark Stoops said a couple times he feels better about the secondary now than he did about the secondary this time last year. They got Keydron Smith, a transfer from Ole Miss, who's kind of solidified things back there. So the defensive line is young, but they've got guys who were heralded as recruits a couple of years ago. It's their time to step in. Octavius Oxendine, a defensive tackle, is a name to watch on the defensive line. They feel like he was playing well last year until he got hurt. And he's back. He's lost 20 pounds, which they think helps him quicker. Those are kind of the guys to watch on defense.
The job Mark has done there has been pretty amazing, and certainly last year was another example of that. It's this ship that just keeps getting better and better, it feels like. And, has there ever been any interest for him in going somewhere else, or is he loyal to Kentucky because they were loyal to him when they could have easily cut him loose after 3 years?
Yeah, I think he's loyal to Kentucky, but I think, if the right job came along, it might be hard for him to turn down. But I don't know how many jobs are out there that are the right job for him. A couple of Kentucky fans, I think, worry about is Michigan, if Harbaugh were to leave, because he has basically a Big Ten pedigree.
Right.
He recruits a lot out of Ohio and Michigan, that he might be a candidate for the Michigan job. The other job is Iowa. That's his alma mater. If Kirk Ferentz would retire, I'm sure his name would be on the list. That doesn't mean
he's going to be 100. He's still going to be coaching at 100.
Yeah, he probably will. But no, you're right. I mean, Mark has done a great job building the program from the ground up. He's also, the facilities are much improved, and he's had a lot to do with that. They redid the stadium a couple of years ago. They built it's not an $85 million football facility like Florida now has, but they spent $50 million on a football facility, which is really nice. They're getting ready to redo their indoor facility, which will make it more football specific. The big thing, kind of the controversy here over the summer, as far as that's concerned, is NIL, whether Kentucky is going to be able to compete with other schools with NIL. Marcus talked about that a couple of times. And then really this little feud between Calipari, where Calipari is trying to get a new practice facility himself and said, Kentucky is a basketball school. No disrespect to football. Of course, when they say no disrespect, the disrespect is coming. And no disrespect to football, but, we're a basketball school. Mark took umbrage at that, almost immediately tweeted, football school. I thought we were in the SEC. And he hashtagged 4 straight bowl victories. So I think that was more to do with NIL money. Cal's trying to say, the NIL money and the booster money should come to basketball because we're a basketball school. And Stoops has done a good job of getting out there and raising money to get what he wants to improve the program. And he's definitely worried about NIL. Tennessee with their collective, other schools in the South, bigger schools with a bigger booster base. How are they going to be able to compete? I think that's the one worry that he has, that he's worked so hard to build this up. He doesn't want to see it go down because they can't compete in the NIL market.
Yeah, that's the world we live in. I mean, we can all be grouchy about it and tell everybody to pull their pants up and turn the music down, but it's the world we live in now, and you got to do
Right.
that. But he is the funny thing is he has done a great job of recruiting. I mean, it's not like they're going to be a top 10 recruiting class, but they bring in guys, their kind of guys. They've recruited really well, as you said, in Ohio and all over that part of the country and in Florida, and they built that up to where they can get their guys in, develop them, and be a strong program. But I'm sure that Marcus just does not want NIL to be the bane of his existence. He's got to accept it, and I'm sure he has, and embrace it and make it happen. They've got money. We know they got money up there. There are horse people up there, but a lot of them are going to say, I would rather get a 7-footer than a 280-pounder.
But I do think Stoops has done a good job of I don't know if wooing is the right word, but convincing some of those boosters, hey, if you give money to football, I've shown I know how to use it and we can be successful. And I think that maybe it got under Cal's skin a little bit, that some of those guys were now people were giving more money to football than he wanted to see. He wanted to see him give it to basketball. But you're right about the recruiting. I remember way before Mark got here, when Kentucky was struggling year after year, we did a story about other programs and how they turned it around. And I talked to a guy who covered Kansas State, and Bill Snyder, and he said Bill Snyder is a really good recruiter, but he's an even better evaluator. And I think Mark fits into that category. They've done a really good job of evaluating and projecting talent. Josh Allen's a great example. He was like a 2-star, 3-star out of New Jersey. Very few offers. People like to say Monmouth was his only offer. I'm not sure that's exactly true, but he certainly wasn't a high recruit. He turns into, he's the number 7 pick in the draft. Jamin Davis was a number 1 first-round draft choice 2 years ago by Washington. He's another guy who, big physical specimen that they really liked. They developed him as a football player. He turns into first-round draft pick. They've done a lot of that with kids, and I think that's really has made the program a success, the job they've been able to do there.
By the way, John Clay coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. In just a minute, we're going to play Yes, No Way, or Maybe with me, which we do with all of our guests. But before we get to that, I want to ask you about the Stoops-Calipari feud, and is it something that is past? Is it over? Is it no big deal? Or is that going to stay in Mark Stoops' craw for a long time?
Publicly, there hasn't been much comment about it since then. Cal made the comment he would get together with Mark. They're fine, work it out. Mark made the comment on his radio show last week before the Miami game that they were past that. It's no big deal. I think privately, though, probably it's a little bit of a rallying cry for the football team. After that thing happened, Cal was in the Bahamas when it happened. They had a press conference. UK had a press conference after a scrimmage, and we thought Stoops would come in and Mitch Barnhart, the AD, and say, "Oh, it's no big deal. They've water under the bridge. It's past. The guys are great." Stoops doubled down on it basically and said, some programs were born on third base. We're not one of those programs. We've had to work for everything we've gotten. And Mitch Barnhart, when he came in, basically we thought Mitch would say, it's a non-issue, but Mitch didn't do that. He said, we'll get everybody on the same page, but we're all adults here. And he talked about the football and basketball programs. So Cal wants this practice facility. UK I think has told Cal we've had these other projects that have to come first. So we're going to see how that plays out. Cal's not one to take no for an answer. So we'll see how that plays out. But the football team, I think, is kind of using it as a rally cry. There were a lot of people at the game Saturday at Bath wearing football school T-shirts, UK fans. I had a guy email me and said he was going to wear his football school. He was making the trip to Gainesville. He was going to wear his football school T-shirt in Gainesville as well. So you got a lot of that as well.
Maybe I'll wear my St. Peter's Peacocks T-shirt to the game on Saturday.
Well,
which I did. I did buy one.
Cal's pressing for this practice facility. We're like, wow, St. Peter's must have a great practice facility. I didn't know they had a practice facility. But anyway.
This whole thing kind of reminds me of Jimbo and Saban. You see these shots across the bow, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh, it's all over. It's okay." But if you got them in a room and a couple of drinks in them, they may go fist to fist.
I I think it's a lot like the Jimbo Saban thing. Cal was trying to send a message to the boosters, hey, we need the money. Just like Saban was sending the boosters to compete, like with Texas A&M. And Stoops sent a message to his supporters and boosters. I'm not backing down from anybody. I'm not backing down from John Calipari. I'm going to show you. And I think Jimbo did the same thing when he came back at Saban. So I think in a lot of ways, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Well, it's time for us to play Yes, No, Where, Maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks. Street dining done right. If you go in there and tell them you were listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast, you get free French fries with your order. And we appreciate Big Mills. Number one on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, Kentucky goes to a New Year's Six Bowl this year.
I would say yes. I predicted they would go to it. They have a good chance. Well, actually, I did not predict a New Year's. I said a New Year's Bowl, but not a New Year's Six Bowl. Now that you clarified that, so I'm going to have to say no.
So at New Year's, you would say Outback.
Yeah, I had them going to the Outback Bowl. I have them going to the Outback Bowl.
All right, number two on Yes, Nowhere, and Maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks. And if you're down here, when you get down here, you can go get free fries if you just tell them.
Okay.
All right. Number two, Will Levis is a first-round draft pick. We all know that the summer hype for him, and he's lived up to it in the first game, and this will be a big game for him to show off what he can do.
Yes, I would say yes, he'll be a first-round draft pick. The scouts that I talked to and listened to and so forth, they love his traits. He's got all the traits you look for in an NFL quarterback. He just needs to be a little more consistent, a little more polished. Big, strong kid, strong arm, can take the punishment, also run the ball. I think he will be a first-round draft pick. Yeah,
and that look, we got two guys here who came into this season, and both of them were projected as first rounders, and in each case you went, I don't know about that. But when you see them play and you know what the NFL guys are looking at, they're incredibly physically talented guys, which the NFL loves to get guys like that and mold them, and but these guys are showing their ability. Yeah.
I think what Josh Allen has done coming out, and now with the Bills, the other Josh Allen, not the former Kentucky Josh Allen, big kid with the traits, but he was inconsistent in college. His completion percentage was not all that good. But I think now that they see, okay, look what they did with Josh Allen, what Buffalo did with Josh Allen. We can do that with an Anthony Richardson. We can do that with a Will Levis. We get them the coaching. They've got everything we're looking for. With some coaching, they can succeed in that league. So I think the Josh Allen example with Buffalo helps both Levis and Richardson.
All right, and finally, number three, Kentucky in basketball in the last 2 years had its worst season and then its worst tournament loss. Are they going to be back and be a force this year now?
Yeah, they'll be back. Of course, they have 4 blowout wins in the Bahamas, so everybody hears, they're ready to get out the ladder.
It's back to being a basketball school, right?
Yeah. But I'm not sure about that yet. But no, they'll be better. I mean, they got Oscar Tshiebwe back, consensus player of the year. Severe Wheeler's back at point guard. He still needs, in my opinion, he needs to cut down on the turnovers, play a little more under control. But they've added a couple of transfers who should help them. And then Jacob Toppin, I think it's the key to the season. A kid who came back this year, talented kid, a lot of potential, a little immature in the past. I feel like he's grown up, maturity. I think if he plays to his capability, yeah, sure, they can easily be a Final Four team. But we'll see. But there's some other, North Carolina's got almost everybody back. I think the SEC be tough this year.
The SEC is going to be
Musselman's done there at Arkansas. Yeah, it's going to be tough. But no, I think Kentucky they'll definitely be in the hunt for a Final Four this year.
All right, before I let you go, is that a picture of Dylan behind you?
No, let's see. I got Springsteen picture and then some Jason Isbell memorabilia.
Okay.
From the Ryman there. Yeah, I got those two.
I went to the Ryman. I was going to say I saw Dylan in the Ryman.
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody in the Ryman is cool, but Dylan in the Ryman would be doubly cool. Yes.
And for those of you who don't know, the Ryman is in Nashville, right downtown Nashville. It's a great place to go to see a concert. And it's always great to see you, John. I'll see you Saturday. I look forward to seeing you up in the press box. My first trip back to the press box since I retired, and that game was the Kentucky game So this is my first trip back to the press box. I'm fired up about it, and they will serve us a half a sub, so it's really exciting.
That's good, just like old times.
Yeah. All right, John, thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Pat.
All right, the great John Clay. We enjoy his time, and as always, he was brought to you on the Big Mills Zoom line, and of course, Big Mills, we appreciate them as well. We got to take a break. We'll come back with all of our fun stuff we like to do here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Albert, Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Pat Dooley's Story Time is brought to you by East Lake Pediatrics. Nobody knows how to provide pediatric health care for little gators better than Dr. Mike and the other board-certified pediatricians and the pediatric nurse practitioners of East Lake Pediatrics. They have been providing personalized health care to the children of Pinellas, Pasco, and Hillsborough counties since 2004. And with the recent addition of Dr. Chris, who is also board certified in sports medicine, they are now offering care for youth sports injuries as well. To learn more about East Lake Pediatrics, call 727-372-6760. And to get to know them better, listen to Dr. Mike and Dr. Carey on their Peds and Pop podcast on multiple platforms. Gator football is back, and the best way to get exclusive insight is a membership in the Gainesville Quarterback Club. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you the access to speakers like coaches, Gator greats, and more. Yeah, I even talk over there. It's pretty cool. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-person meetings or for non-locals via Zoom with an out-of-town membership. Right now, out-of-town memberships are only $150, and all new out-of-town signups get entered to win 2 Champions Club tickets. to homecoming. That's pretty cool. Against Missouri, speaker presentations, home game tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or call me, Pat Dooley, 352-317-3444, and I'll get you in touch with the right people. Gainesville Quarterback Club. Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted Podcast. And I know we did a long interview there, and it was great to talk to him. And so we got to get to all of our great stuff. One thing we're going to do today is we're going to pull a winner for the Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. I'm also going to give you a chance to go ahead and start qualifying for the next one. And in the next one, I'm actually giving away a copy of my book that I wrote many years ago, but I've updated a couple of chapters, one on Major Wright, one on Steve Tannen. It's a great-looking book, and that is going to be a prize next week, plus your Leonardo's at Millhopper $25 gift certificate. Let us go. We will take, I tell you what, Tammy, you pull a number, you say a number between 5 and 49, because we had a lot of people get in, including a lot of people who are first-time entrants. So go ahead and give me a number. 47 is Sean Belgrade. Sean Belgrade actually works for NASCAR. So that's cool. So, Sean, don't worry about having to send me your address if you want me to go ahead and send it to NASCAR. I've already got your address on there. So very cool. That's neat. Sean Belgrade is our winner. So congratulations to Sean, and thanks so much to Leonardo's at Millhopper, which will be hopping this weekend. So will Adam's Ribco to go. I know they've got a lot of work to do. I did order from them Saturday, and it was great, as always. Our Gator of the Week is young Billy Horschel. Why Billy Horschel? I know he's been Gator of the Week before, and I'm sure it's another accolade that he appreciates. But Billy was picked for the President's Cup this week, something he's been trying to get on, the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup, for years, and he was excited. I sent him a congratulatory text. He responded from the other side of the pond, so I don't know if he has to pay extra for that. But we love Billy Horschel, and boy, it makes the President's Cup that much more interesting to watch because he's playing it. It was like when DeMarco was playing in the Ryder Cup. We would get fired up, man, and he would be fired up. Or was it the President's Cup? I think it was the President's Cup. He won. I think he made a putt to win it at that time. So congratulations to Billy, and thanks to Adam's Ribco to go for the Gator of the Week and the Gator of the Weekend. We'll have a great one coming up. All right, let's start to do numbers. Let's go to Hesser and Kipke, Three Things. The Three Things is brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in Hale Plantation, specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920. All right, number one, I will be there Saturday. I did not go to the first game. I confess to that. I was worried about lightning, and I should be worried about it again. I'm not scared of lightning. I'm just saying I was afraid that we have lightning delays. I'd be there all night. I'd rather watch football. I got to get out of the house, and this is going to be for game week. This is going to be the first press box football game I've been to since 2 years ago when Florida played Kentucky. I haven't been back. Not because I didn't want to go, but I wanted to find out what it'd be like to spend a year just watching games on TV. And it was great, but I can't keep doing that. I've got to either go to the press box or go out and play golf or something, because you sit there for that long and it's not healthy. Let's just put it that way. But I'm excited about being in the press box. So that's number one. Number two on Hesser and Kipke's Three Thing, it's time. It's time because it is down to the end here with baseball. And it is going to be exciting, of course, with the Braves, half game behind the Mets. I think everybody's got about 18 games to go, something like that, but it's less than 4 weeks. I know that I looked at the calendar, and it's less than 4 weeks left, and so many good races. Cleveland, a game and a half over Minnesota and Chicago. The Yanks are down to a 4-game lead over the Rays. The Rays are 1.5 up on the wild card. The Phillies right now would be in. I know Ken is happy about that. The Braves are going to have to beat the Phillies if they're going to win the division, because they play them, I think, 6 or 7 games down the stretch. So it's going to be interesting. And It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun down the stretch. It's always kind of a secondary thing for me with college football, but it's still great. Also today, baseball's management council passed a rule for no shifts, which I'm in favor of. I don't like the shift. I think the only reason the shift happened is because guys quit trying to hit the other way and kept trying to hit homers. So maybe they'll. It's not going to stop. They're not going to stop doing that. So you might as well take the shift out and a pitch clock. So that's interesting to see them do that. And I think both these things are good for the sport. And finally, on Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. For a second, I couldn't read my writing, but no agreement with Lamar Jackson. So basically, he is going to play the season out without a new deal on his contract. It's stunning to me that any team would not give their quarterback what he wants, but maybe it's outrageous. I don't know the details of this, but you can't win in this league without a quarterback, and they've got a really good one. But they're going to kind of play it out. I think they can franchise him next year, and then he'd be a unrestricted free agent, but it'll be interesting to see what happens there. So a lot going on, man. This is the time of year when it's a lot going on. In fact, I've got to hurry up because we had so much going on. It's hard to get to everything, but we always love Hesser and Kipke, 3 things, and thanks so much to them. Let's get to the Gainesville Quarterback Club games of the weekend. And by the way, their speaker Tuesday is going to be David Cutcliffe. That's going to be really interesting. I look forward to that. In the state, and you can join very easily. I just told you how on that commercial. Best game in the state, again, we're not counting the Florida-Kentucky game because that's totally its own animal, is tonight. Louisville at UCF. Louisville is a 5.5-point underdog. I think UCF will smoke them. I don't think Louisville's very good. Although, I have to remember my own mantra, every game's its own game, but they didn't look good against Syracuse last week. That game is at 7:30 on ESPN2 tonight. The SEC game of the week, I'm going to go with the SEC game. The other one that's not Florida, Kentucky, and that's South Carolina at Arkansas. Arkansas an 8.5-point favorite. That's a noon game. Our noon games this week, like last week I said, noon games are terrible. They all turned out to be great. It was fun to watch. This week, there's a bunch of games that are big, but you never know. They may all be blowouts, including Alabama, Texas. And the national game of the week, I'm going to go with Baylor at BYU. 2 ranked teams. Baylor's number 9 at BYU number 21. And that is a 10:30 ESPN game on Saturday. So when I get home from the game, I'll probably have a half of football to watch, and that's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait for that. A couple other spreads. Tennessee, a 6-point favorite at Pitt. I think Tennessee destroys them. Alabama, 20.5 over Texas. It's a lot of points, especially at Texas, but we'll see what happens. Wake Forest is a 13-point favorite over Vanderbilt. It'll be interesting to see if Vanderbilt can somehow win this game. And again, Sam Hartman's back, so we don't know how that's going to all work out. Would a 3-0 Vandy be ranked? Especially if they beat a ranked team? Could be. So that is our Gainesville Quarterback Club games of the weekend. It is time to go to this, that, and the other. As always, presented to you by Dar Shackout Insurance. We appreciate them. And the great people out at Ironwood Golf Course, where I was a little earlier today to pick some things up. And Ballyhoo Grill, where I may be tonight. You never know. You never know where I'm going to show up on a Friday night on game week. This is that LSU lost their opening game under Brian Kelly. And certainly nobody was really happy with the special teams. It's the only coach that came down with him from Notre Dame and didn't work out really well. Well, that is the reporter, Leah Vann from The Advocate. As she walks into the room, Brian Kelly says, we usually charge $10 for when you're late, blah, 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 which he didn't need to say. He thought he was being funny. He's not funny. He's incapable of being funny. And, of course, she made the famous statement now. She said, well, if you won, maybe I would be on time. So she shouldn't have done that. And I'd have a long talk with her. But, again, this is a world of Twitter and social media where you might have been able to do that 20 years ago with Steve Spurrier. And he might have been mad at you, but that would have been the limit of it. That would have been the extent of it. Instead, the other is that people are mad at Kelly, and they're mad at her, and everybody's mad at everybody. I'm just glad I don't have to cover LSU. It seems like too much drama all the time. Way too much drama. So that is this, that, and the other, and we appreciate our great sponsors there. Finally, it is time for Pat Dooley's Story Time, as always brought to you by Eastlake Pediatrics. And I'm going to tell this story. My first job was in Fort Lauderdale. So at the Sun Sentinel right out of college. And one day they tell me, hey, we need you to go cover the press conference for the Jackie Gleason Inverary Classic. And I'm like, okay. I'm the golf writer, which was pretty cool. So I go, and at one point the guy comes up and goes, the great one's going to be here. Do you want to do an interview with him? I go, with Jackie Gleason? Are you kidding me? I'm 21 years old. I get to talk to Jackie Gleason. And finally they bring me up to the table, and I sit down. There he is, the great one. He goes, what do you got, kid? And I asked him all his questions. He was great. And I was like, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. The next week they said, you need to go talk to Pete Rose about this story. Do a story on Pete Rose doing some kind of speech. And I'm not a Pete Rose fan now. I was then, like everybody was. The next week I had to go talk to Andy Messersmith, who was a guy who started free agency in major leagues. And then the next week, Julius Boris, who was a famous golfer. I still have a picture of me interviewing him when I was just a kid. And then finally, a guy named Craig Barnes, who was, we used to call him Pot Roast Head, but Craig Barnes was an interesting guy down there. He goes, come on, get in the car. We got to go to the airport. I go, okay, for whatever. We get there, and he is literally chasing down in the parking lot of the Fort Lauderdale airport, Joe Namath. And so we're sitting there, and I'm watching. I'm just standing there listening to Joe Namath talk. I'm like, this is the greatest job in the world. Then a few months went by, and Jacksonville Journal called. I said, I grew up reading that paper. I loved it. It was a PM paper. It was so much fun, but I had to leave. They did offer me a little bit more money to stay, but I had to leave. Sometimes I think I made a mistake. Think about the people I was interviewing. Then I went up there, and I was interviewing Buck Bellew. I love Buck Bellew, but it's different. Anyway, that is our story time. That was a pretty good story. I've had a lot of good stories today, and now I'm going to get the heck out of here and go do a radio show. So I hope you guys have enjoyed today's show. Again, Monday, Coach Spurrier, can't wait to see what he's got to say, because I can't wait to see what happens in the game, and then I'll see what he has to say about it. But I can't wait for it. He was so interesting, I thought, last Monday, and people have been sending us rave reviews for that podcast on last Monday. All right, that's going to do it. Thanks to Jason and to Tammy for doing a great job of producing the show, as they always do. We'll be back with another one on Monday. Till then, I'm Pat Dooley. I am deep. I'm way back, and I am out of here. I did that too early, didn't I?